the go live button. It's going to be epic. You're right. All right. The magic is happening.
Are you streaming? Are you live already?
I mean, I've started the stream with the pregame.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure, like, you need to take down my screen.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. You're good.
Again, you said like 10 people. How many price for 10 people? Need a small elementary school. Hey. Plumeria in University Heights.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. I think we're good.
Plumeria.
Don't have any
So, as
messages?
someone who had lunch there, yes, it was very, very good. I didn't even. Yeah, when they said there, it's like if you 10, I was like 10. Yeah, and then all that rice.
Oh my goodness.
That is the tangerine chicken. Yes. Well, chicken. Yeah, with orange sauce and fresh potatoes. Yeah. I am glad that you coordinated on this. I just realized, Trey, I should have called you because I've been down here all day.
Oh. Wow.
I went to Twins
This is
for a
working.
while.
The magic is happening.
Then I went to Lestat and was there.
Oh.
Which Twitch were you at?
University.
Which was into the staff?
That's probably a peanut sauce. University Heights.
Oh, which is why you have to know.
Well, that's the only reason I went down. I had to put the order in today because of credit card reasons. Oh yeah, you can't. You can give us your credit card number over the phone. I was like, no, I can't. That would be bad. So I had to actually like go in today. I was like, all right, I'll do it.
You can totally give your credit card number over the phone. As a security person, I'd say it's okay.
Totally endorse that behavior.
You can. Don't give a debit card PIN number over the phone.
Yeah.
But a credit card? Oh, if it leaks out, that's just somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Not yours. I mean, yes, you'll need a new credit card, but like, whatever.
Yeah, in the end, it's not that a big of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't put your PIN number. Never say your PIN
Oh,
number
no.
over the phone.
I don't want Satya.
Didn't read the last. Asking for the credit card.
There's. I'm not. Food.
Oh, the
I figured it out, I guess.
Yeah, I know. I realize that as I was reading.
Plates,
They
bowls,
probably have to.
cutlery.
yeah. Don't worry about it. I think your credit card number leaks out.
From Plumeria. It's in University Heights. It is an all-vegetarian Thai restaurant.
On the bottom.
It's delicious.
Yes, can confirm.
I don't know. Are we there now?
From Ansir. It's very tough. Ansir is too busy.
Got it. Where's the call? We usually meet in building Q, which is like a big cafeteria building. You know, it's
Yeah.
like
Where's Near Mesa
Oh,
Boulevard.
Springville's tend to do that.
Yeah, Fresno Valley area. Yeah, we kind of got really short notice that they couldn't host us this month. We've been there the last 3 months.
Okay.
I might take this.
They basically told me with like, they told me, I guess, about a week's notice. How old is the meetup itself?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't meet we met online during COVID, but we've been meeting since 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been running it since
You're like
February 2012. That
not
was
taking
my first meetup.
applications.
That makes sense.
I've been attending.
I met you at
since-
your second and third meeting.
There you go.
I just assumed you were a long-time organizer of that.
It would have been part of it if I didn't send you. I really.
Was there?
Yeah,
Yes.
Speak from driving.
Yes. Hi, good evening. Hello. Python meetup, you're in the right place. Maybe I'll put this like by the door so people know that they're in the right place. started. I'm guessing Jay's laptop was asleep, and that's why it says no signal. They're working on it.
Oh, yeah, put that together.
There's swag, there's masks, there's food.
Can we sit anywhere?
Hey,
Or,
hello.
is there specific seating?
No,
No, just
The
grab a
only-
seat.
the only seat that is taken is the one next to the camera.
Cool.
So on this side of the building, so basically all the spots that you're okay to park in say the building number, like 2 building numbers. They say this building number and this building number. Python meetup?
Yes.
You're in the right place. Awesome. Welcome. There's food. There's swag. But yeah, so if you're parked in the basically the unmarked paid spots, do not park in the unmarked paid spots. So if you go to the meetup page, in the directions there's a picture of exactly the spots that you can park in. Should be at the bottom, or you can park on the street.
Okay.
In front of the chiropractor. but
Book
they don't
specs,
close.
site.
Yeah,
I parked right outside his door.
yeah. So if you're parked on this side of the building, it's probably not the right place. If you are parked in the back of the building or on
Like
this side of the building, you're probably in the right place.
Red is good. Red is bad. Red is
No,
bad.
this
Okay.
side and
Yeah.
that
This
side.
side of the, okay.
This
I'm over
is
here.
If I'm looking at, if I'm standing in front
of the building.
Thank
So
you.
that's this way. So if you're on the right of the building, you're probably not in the right spot. If you're in the back of the building or the left of the building, facing the front of the building, then you are probably in the right spot. You should repark because I think those spots are enforced 24 hours. Or you could pay. I actually have no idea how much they cost. Alright. Yeah, this is what the person who owns the space told me.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
Quick question. It's like my first time here.
What's up?
Do we have to have anything open on our
No.
computers or?
Just hang out,
What-
get to know. I'm Jay, by the way. Nice to
Oh,
meet you.
Nice to meet you. Victor.
Victor, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Okay, so just we're gonna
Yeah.
watch this. We don't have to have anything open.
Yeah, if you want to open things, you can. If you don't want to open things, that's fine too. If you want to watch, if you want to ask questions, make sure that's okay, and then you're good.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's vegetarian chicken, right?
Everything is vegan. Everything is vegan and everything is gluten free.
What is this made of?
So it's fake chicken.
Probably tofu.
David, you were saying about parking.
So if you have a soy allergy,
So this over here.
don't eat the food. But other than that,
I won't say I've been Irish, but I'm not, my body does handle it.
does it have no soy?
I mean, yeah. I have been saying it for so long, but it's okay.
You're okay with it? That's the problem with any dietary restrictive food is we're gonna replace this one thing. You might be allergic to the thing we replace it with, but we are gonna at least try. Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Is there a registration?
Nope. If you're
Okay.
here, you're here. There's food in the back. It's vegan and gluten free, so feel free to grab anything.
Thanks.
It's all chicken. I don't know why they didn't put asterisks around that for legal reasons, but I do have a question. Our sponsor would like to know if I can take photos. Just to make sure everybody's okay with being photographed.
$100 a picture.
I mean,
I'm just messing.
if you want to go that route. I don't know if you've seen editing tools lately. It's a lot easier to take you out than it is to fake.
No.
Doing something in person again? Yeah, is this your first time back since, in person, yeah, in person? Definitely not, it wasn't online then. Yeah. Not because it wasn't a program, it just happened. I think they're gonna talk on next month. Yeah, that's good.
Stats as much as possible.
To get to here, I think pretty much if I take 8. Otherwise, 52 feet. Right, yeah. Other parts like
get started in like
Sure it's gonna.
10 minutes probably.
I'm one of the organizers.
Oh, awesome.
Hey,
Okay.
Hello.
I'm Graham, I'm back.
I remember you.
By the
Did
way,
you, get the audio
terrible with names.
revised a little?
I hope so.
Okay.
So I'm plugging something on
In
your
that case, I won't harass you.
I've tested it somewhat and got Jay to look at it as well, who does this stuff. And I'm an engineer. So the answer is I hope so. But we also have some challenging things today. We had a remote presenter scheduled, and then our other one of our in-person presenters is sick today, and so is presenting remotely.
So their sound should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, assuming it comes in correctly, yes, I hope so.
What's the mask ordinance around here?
I have masks. I'm not enforcing anybody.
Well, I mean, trying to keep up with anything.
It's not being widely.
Yeah, I mean, I was
I've heard
trying
you
to,
don't- I've heard you don't care.
but I sort of, like, at this point, like, basically, I think the first time back, I sort of tried to rigidly enforce it, and then by, like, the second time back, nobody was wearing masks, so I've kind of given up a little bit, but
I saw the posting on
Someone had posted, they're like, hey,
What did I
I'm a
say?
beginner, I'm looking for.
or what did somebody do?
I think it's boilerplate, is left around from previous occasions. It's
Alright, you need to go to Python.
safety
Like, I didn't put any other
masks
ones.
enforced for that.
Oh, really?
You want to learn, like, Python or something like code. If you want to
I'll
just
put a mask on.
read what other people are doing, then you got all the other stuff.
Okay, all right, well, I'll sit down and enjoy the sound.
Enjoy. Hopefully the sound is good. Hopefully everything is good, but, you know, I've done my best, basically. The food is good. Yeah. Jay nailed it. Hopefully I can also nail it. Jay certainly did well, but
What happened?
no, you're doing great. You're doing great.
What's the Wi-Fi doing?
The food, you got it.
If you use the QR code,
There's a QR code
it'll
by the
have
door,
the.
but it's something like Spectrum Wi-Fi 70 5G, and then Pink Shark 014.
So the food is okay. Food is okay. Good.
Food's good.
We've gone to 2 different places. What was the other place? Do you remember?
Veggie Grill.
Veggie Grill. People who have had both, do you have a preference? I really don't care. I just need to know where to go pick up food from. No? Okay.
I'll eat either of these.
I mean-
They're both delicious.
Yeah, I think they're both great. I think this is probably better than Veggie Grill in terms of like options, I'm guessing.
I feel like we live in San Diego. You're gonna get tacos eventually. Like Thai food, maybe not. So maybe we mix it up.
The only problem is I don't know where Jeremy is, and Jeremy is supposed to be the laptop that handles the remote presenters.
Is it like a Zoom call?
Google Meet.
Okay.
Can I send you a thing?
Mhm.
Well, okay, you don't need to do it right now, but I'm gonna just send you a thing. I only have one of them, which is a problem.
What are the others?
But at least that way you can handle one of them if that happens.
No.
So this one's for Jason. Jason is supposed to be second, and he is I was aiming for 7:30.
That's when you were aiming for him to present?
Yes.
7:30?
So
okay.
yeah. So he's supposed to be second, so we do intros and then. But yeah, you don't need to. Not now. You don't need to click on it. But
Oh, don't click
if,
on it now.
No, don't click on it now. But
Okay, well,
if
too late for that.
Jeremy doesn't, if I don't see Jeremy, because I don't see Jeremy,
You might be trying to figure out where to park.
he might be trying to figure out where to park. And parking, I suspect, gets somewhat difficult around here. But if he's not here at some point, you'll do that.
Sure.
You'll be the laptop that is connected that we stream the.
I should probably get a charger now that I think about that.
You should probably. Hey, Smart. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
You need to pay for parking or anything?
No, so, oh man, I tried to make this like really clear to me. No, so if you're on this side of the building though, you cannot park there without paying.
But on the back.
If you're in the back of the building, all the parking spaces say like the numbers of the buildings here. If you're parked in one of those spots, you're good.
Awesome.
You made it. Awesome.
Apple Maps has it done by the bus station.
Oh. Sorry. That's not it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good?
Let's see.
You're here?
You see my
yeah, we're all set up for you up here.
Am I going first, last, third?
My plan was
No.
for you to go last.
Okay, I can do that.
You're last on the schedule. So
Okay, sure.
But you were first in terms of helping me set up and make sure the audio is good, so that helps a lot.
That's
Glad I could help. Yeah, you did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
We got charger. That's what I was trying to find.
Yep. I have the notes for the meetup.
Alright, last page. Phoebe's also on
Trey,
the
you
same
came back on the chair?
video chat for
Yeah.
the
The same one as Jason?
yeah.
Okay. The only problem is those.
Sure, yes.
So we'll
Timeout.
just do them. Yeah, they time out after an hour.
Yeah.
So we'll just do them back to back. Then we're good to go. Yeah, because they do not work if you or they kick you off.
I'm not bitter. I'm gonna get that talk somewhere else.
You can sit there. No, he'll be good.
Most talks.
Are you good sitting there?
My talk is
Are
wasn't the most
Do you want to set up your laptop?
in-depth Python for it was.
Because you're handling the laptop with the remote presenter.
Hey,
Or do you want
the
Jay?
Python community
Well,
blew
Jay.
up around the same time. Hip hop
He's
did
already
too.
hooked in.
He is hooked in.
Let's
He
talk
has the
like date for date, not like exact days, but like
He's
years.
good to go. But
Okay.
okay.
It's like, hey, Jay, can we run the meetup, the remote presenters off of your laptop? Yeah. Okay. Would you check your settings though to make sure that because your laptop goes to sleep?
If it's in a call, it won't go to sleep.
Oh,
And
okay.
also, I
Okay.
have a don't go to sleep thing that I can use.
Okay. Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
But yeah, it was basically like what can the Python community learn from hip hop and vice versa. It was a lesson in storytelling, a lesson in community building, and a lesson in what to absolutely not do.
Yeah, that sounds like a regional conference keynote.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I'll give that talk somewhere else. That's fine.
Oh man. All right. We're good.
All right, so
So we probably don't need it for like 15 minutes, but like basically when I'm done with the intros,
okay,
which I'll probably start in like 2 minutes, then
Okay.
we'll do the Phoebe, who's the first remote presenter, and hopefully Phoebe
you
is.
have a link for Phoebe? I don't have a
Yeah,
link for Phoebe.
same.
It's the same one.
Same link. Okay.
Same link. So I think we're just gonna do it.
Do I need to have Phoebe in the call so that she can hear what's going on,
That would be
or so they can hear what's going on? I'm sorry?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I'm gonna let you handle that. I don't know. Hello, welcome everybody. You're in the right place for San Diego Python.
Oh, let me mute the TV because
Well-
they will.
No, it should be okay, right? Well,
Actually, let me do this. I won't mute the TV. I'll just change the audio interface.
don't.
Well,
You're tempt and fate here.
okay. We'll just tell them to stay muted.
Man. You do you. But I don't think the TV audio is. Oh, for
Someone has to let me into the meeting room. I don't know who that is. My guess is it's you.
Yes.
Hi, folks. We're trying something new.
Multiple people are joining this call. I will allow all of them. Okay.
Of course, David doesn't have a mic.
There's no audience.
I do have a mic.
That's why I'm stuffing my face now.
Should we temporarily turn the camera around?
Yeah, yes. Probably. Well, the streaming camera is on. All right. I think we're. Should we? If you want to, we don't need to show that right now.
You can see your user group. Everybody wave to Phoebe. She's presenting.
She's our first presenter.
Oh.
All right.
Click
I'm
on
gonna
status
switch over.
so we can see our response.
Hopefully this switches over. All right. Awesome. I'm gonna give intros, I guess. All right. Welcome to San Diego Python. First time back in Ansir after like 7 years. Very cool. I wanna first of all thank Ansir Cowork. First of all, you're in the right place for San Diego Python. Maybe I'll start with parking. If you parked on this side, which I think is the east side of the building, I want to say, you're probably parked in the wrong spot. If your spot says the number of the building, I think I took, if you follow the directions at the bottom of the meetup, then you are parked in the right spot and you will not get a ticket. But I'm pretty sure the spots on the east side of the building are 24-hour enforced. Change your parking, move it. if you need to move your parking. Anyway, okay, I wanna thank Ansir Cowork, like totally accommodated us. We were back at Ansir in 2015, I want to say. I want to thank them. They hosted us very early on when we were first starting the meetup at the old location, and you know, they really accommodated us this week. I got sort of like really short notice that Qualcomm was doing some renovations in the usual spot that we're in, and so they couldn't do it. And you really helped me out.
No problem. Yeah.
Do you want to, Phil, do you want to say a couple words about Ansir Cowork?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, welcome to Ansir. We used to be across the street, as you mentioned earlier, and like COVID hit and things happened. So this building's been bought by my partner. So we're here now. It's a little bit smaller than the old spot, but it works barely. If it gets too hot, let me know. I can probably turn on the AC too. It feels a little warm. I don't know if you know much about co-working, but if you work out of your house and you have like family or kids or cats or dogs or neighbors and you're just going nuts and you just want a destination to go, co-working is where you can go to another place besides like a coffee shop and work there. So that's what we do here. We have open desks, dedicated desks, and you know, you can come here for 10 days if you want, so like per month. So I put a discount on AnsirSD.com if you're interested in signing up. There's a coupon code for Python 50 for your first month off. So just let me know if you have any questions on anything. We have plenty of amenities. We got parking, usually more parking during the day. But yeah, so that's about it. Just thank you for being here and stopping by.
Thank you for letting us be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Microsoft and Jay. Microsoft sponsors the food, which is from Plumeria. It's all vegan.
Gluten-free.
Yeah, and gluten-free. So, you know, the chicken is fake chicken, but get at it. Even somebody checked with me and was like, oh, the chicken's got to be not vegan. I was like, the chicken is vegan chicken. So, you know, get at it. It'll be good. I want to thank Microsoft for sponsoring that. Do you want to say a word or two about Microsoft?
Yeah, so it started out as a small Windows company. I'm kidding. I'm not going to go into jokes. Yeah, so I am one of the cloud advocates for Azure. If you are building a project or you're interested in building a project that involves some type of web presence or downloading some kind of data or presenting it somewhere, aka.ms/Azure free to get $200 off the first, I think it's just like the first $200 off. Don't quote me on that. And if you already have an account, that link doesn't work. I'm sorry, but yeah, if you want to sign up, you can do that. Also, tweet about it. Say thank you, Azure, for sponsoring. I don't know if you've noticed with things happening, but there are a lot of layoffs. There are a lot of things that are happening, and people are trying to figure out where they can cut budgets. And me going and asking for more money to get nice Thai food instead of Domino's or Little Caesars tends to make people ask questions. So make sure you say thank you. If you see, you know, hey, Microsoft proudly sponsors, go, yeah, that sounds great. The food was amazing. That is also good. And if you want to talk about deploying your next Python project with Python 3.11 on Azure. For those that don't know about Python 3.11, really fast. You can't say Python's slow anymore. 10 to 60% fast, 10 to 60 faster than previous versions of Python. So if you want to do that, Microsoft gets to say, hey, first, it's up and running. So you can deploy your next Flask or Django app on Azure Web Apps using Python 3.11 if you want to know how. Come see me. That's it.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, back to me. So I'm David, by the way. I'm one of the organizers. Jay's one of my fellow organizers. I also want to thank Jeremy and Diane, who's not here. Jeremy's here, but Diane's not here. They also help organize the meetup and help line up the speakers and wrangle everything so that we have good talks. I have a couple small announcements, and then we'll get into our first talk. We also have a giveaway, which I left in my backpack, but I'm going to grab it out before the giveaway, which I'll do at the end of the announcements. So first of all, we have a Saturday group. That one is still meeting online only, Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Check the meetup page, but it's a little bit different than this one. There's not like scheduled talks like this. It's more of a bring your laptop, work on a project with fellow Python people. It's more of a open chat, but still there'll be like 15 people. It meets in the Discord now. So if you're not on the Discord, you can get on the Discord from the website, sandiegopython.org. It has links to the code of conduct. It has links to Discord. It has our Meetup stuff on there. It's like 2 pages, so there's not a lot there, but it has links to all the things that you need to know in order to participate in San Diego Python. Notably, it has a link to our YouTube channel, which this Meetup is being live streamed to, and hopefully it's okay. Hopefully I've worked out the audio issues, which have plagued us for the last 3 months. Taking a streaming setup on the road, hard, let me tell you. I'm going to just mention a couple upcoming Python conferences that you might be interested in. There's PyCascades. They're meeting in Vancouver and they have dates this time. It's March 18th to 20th. This is kind of the unofficial San Diego conference, even though I realize it's in Vancouver, British Columbia, not even in this country. But it's kind of the unofficial San Diego conference because when I go to that conference, there will be like 10 or 15 people from San Diego at that conference. So, and there's not a San Diego Python conference really, so that's the unofficial San Diego Python conference. PyCascades, which is not anywhere near here. PyTexas is coming up. That's April 1st and 2nd. It's in Austin. Check it out. It's in person as well. And PyCon US is also in person. They were in person last year, I suppose. It's April 19th to 27th in Salt Lake City. Not all of that is the conference. I think that includes like a little bit at the beginning and a little bit at the end that's sprints and tutorials, which are optional, but cool, but optional. And so I think the core of the conference is 3 days, I think. Sometime between April 19th and 27th. I don't have the exact dates. Cool. What?
Are those all the conferences?
Those are all the conferences.
There's 2 more conferences. North Bay Python, their website still isn't up to date yet, but the conference is happening, so says their newsletter. That is in Petaluma, California. So if you want something a little bit cheaper, that's an option. Also, all of the conferences that we talked about, except for PyTexas, do have an online component. So if travel is an issue and you still want to get those talks same day and kind of interact with the community, check for the online prices. And there is one more conference, which is Python Web Conference, which is all online. It's 5 days. And I do have a promo code for you. It is Python Community News, all one word. That'll give you 15% off. And that's brought to you by the podcast that I did, Python Community News.
North Bay Python's the end of July. It doesn't say it on their website yet, though, I don't think.
Okay.
So North Bay Python, end of July.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Python Web Conference is the middle of March. I think it's the 13th through the 17th.
I'll have to add that to my notes. Yeah. All right. I do want a couple more announcements. We have a jobs channel in our Discord if you're looking for like a local Python job or a local, Python job. So if you're on the Discord, there's a jobs channel specifically for this. If anybody though, if your company is hiring and you're here at the meetup in person, like, do you want to give a shout out to your company? Do you want to give like a brief blurb? Anybody's company hiring? I realize that's tougher than it was 6 months ago, but yeah, go for it. Rivan.
Overall, in Quantum, there are different departments, specifically more associated to the audio, IoT. Those groups are heavily right now invested, are the primary revenue growth, and basically it's looking for engineers.
Got it. So
areas, electrical engineering, CS, computer science. So go ahead.
Oh, cool. I was just going to say it again for this. Cool. So Qualcomm hiring for IoT engineers. Awesome. Anybody else's company hiring? Yeah, go for it.
O'Reilly's hiring for senior backend and data engineer and some cloud things. And if we like you enough, we'll find a place. So just if you're interested, go to O'Reilly.com, scroll down, hit careers.
Got it. O'Reilly.
O'Reilly Media, not the auto parts place.
Yeah. a tech job.
They have
that's true.
tech
That's
jobs
true.
there.
They do. I remember like there was a tech job for O'Reilly, and we all kind of joked about it. That's true. Not O'Reilly Publishing, which that's normal, but it was like O'Reilly Auto Parts. We were kind of got a laugh out of that. Anyway, awesome. Thank you, O'Reilly Media. Hiring. It was data, senior backend, and cloud. Awesome. Anybody else's company hiring? All right, cool. And I just want to mention that you too can be a speaker. You know, these talks, most of them are like in the 5 to 7 minute range. We're always looking for talks of all skill levels. You don't have to sign up for the next meetup. You could sign up for the meetup after next or something like that. And if you sign up, it's also like, that's how you commit to doing something, and then you will do it because I'll hold you to it. Not that hard, but you know, I'll hold you to it a little bit. Awesome. And I'm not quite sure where we will be next month. I'm hoping we will be back at Qualcomm. I'm not 100% sure. So stay tuned to the meetup page, and I will keep it up to date. And I have a giveaway, which I'm going to grab out of my bag, which I forgot. Yeah, awesome. So I have an Adafruit PyPortal. So this is from JFrog. They've been a longtime sponsor of San Diego Python. Literally sent me swag to give away at the meetup February 2020, you know, for our next meetup, which ended up being 3 months ago. So very cool, but they've been awesome. We did giveaways during COVID when we were meeting online and everything like that. JFrog, if you don't know them, they have a DevOps platform for continuous releases. Like if you do a PYPI inside your company firewall, if that's a thing that you need, that is literally their product, among other things. So you should check them out. They have a free version of their product, but you know, if it's for like a big company, which is probably what you would want it for, you pay for it. But that's okay. JFrog's been awesome. They've been a really big supporter of San Diego Python. And so this thing, which I actually opened before and took a picture of it, this is these Adafruit PyPortals. These things are super cool. It's like a CircuitPython powered display. So this actually is like a full display. I think it's not like 640. It might even be 640 by 480, but I don't think it's bigger than 640 by 480. But it's still pretty awesome, and it's totally programmable with Python. And so I have a giveaway, yeah, if you win it, although I already drew the people, so I have like a list of people, and hopefully one of them is here. If you win it, I'm not going to hold you to this, but I'd love it if you gave a lightning talk on it, you know, after a suitable amount of time that you've had to spend time with it.
It's great for playing pranks. Just going to say, I actually programmed mine to whisper names of my relatives, and then I put it in their house somewhere, and I just have it play at a random time interval. Yeah. You're terrible. Okay. So I did draw a list of names, so I printed it out. So like, as long as you signed, Phoebe has one. Awesome. Yeah. So is Ram Mohan here? No, Ram Mohan. I just basically went to all the people who RSVP'd on the meetup, and
I'm just taking out the list.
Yeah, I'm going down. No, I'm not. I randomized it. I'm not just going down the top. Jasper Chen. All right, you won. Wow. You're the winner, courtesy of JFrog. Awesome. Sweet. I didn't hear that.
I don't know if you're going to get feedback.
Yeah, we probably need to bump her volume.
No, I'm saying I don't know if you're going to get feedback from
Oh, I'll mute that on the
You
thing.
should go do that so I can turn her volume
Right now?
up.
Well, I'm okay. I guess Phoebe is the first speaker, and so Phoebe is a remote speaker, and Phoebe's gonna talk to us about packaging using Pyproject.toml. So I'm gonna mute this, and we're gonna get things going and full screen and whatever.
Give us 1 second, Phoebe.
Okay. Oh man, why isn't? Yeah. Okay. There we go. Mute this other one.
Can you see my slides? I can't see you right now. I can see my slides. Okay. Okay, so let me pull up my slides. Okay, can you see my slides? Okay, great, awesome. My name is Phoebe Polk. I'm a senior software engineer over at Guardant Health, and you can find me on, now Mastodon and LinkedIn. First off, I am going to define some terms really, really quickly for anybody who's new to this part of the Python world. First thing I wanted to talk about was Python Software Foundation, PSF, is the nonprofit open source community organization that governs Python, helps us put on meetups. If you're not a member, join today. The Python Packaging Authority, which is a volunteer-run service that hosts all the Python packages for distribution to the Python community. So when you pip install stuff, you're pip installing things normally from PyPI. PyPI is managed by the Python Packaging Authority. What is a Python package? A Python package is basically the compressed files containing the Python interpretable code. What is a PEP? It's this thing called a Python enhancement proposal, which Python has this very bureaucratic process for the Python community to basically agree on changes to Python. And new changes are proposed in a sequentially numbered sequence. So they're called PEPs. Core metadata. What is core metadata? It's a set of key value descriptors for Python packages that are considered, like the general standard for most Python packages. So core metadata. So when we're talking about core metadata, we're talking about a set of key value descriptors for Python packages. When I'm talking about build, that is a process of compressing Python code into a Python package. So you start with Python code, do a build, then you have a Python package in a zip or a tar or a wheel, some kind of compressed file. What is a build backend? Well, the build backend is the tool which is used to compress the Python code into the Python package. So there are different build backends. What do we talk about when we're talking about static metadata? When we're talking about static metadata, we mean to be talking about values that are defined prior to interpretation by the Python client. So these are values that are in a dictionary or a file that acts like a dictionary, like a config file. Those are static. What is a dynamic value? A dynamic is a value that gets defined during interpretation by the Python client. So this is stuff like searching through the Git history for the version, or creating a version based on the Git commit. That kind of thing is a dynamic, and it's defined during the interpretation by the Python client. Finally, what's TOML? TOML is a file format, like a text file or a JSON file or a YAML file or an INI file. Anyway, I just wanted to run through some definitions really quickly before trying to jump into a little bit of a demo. So everybody knows about echo, right? So echo SD Python, and it prints SD Python on the screen. Can you see my screen? Somebody shout yes. Okay, can you see my screen now? A little bit more. Okay. And still, this is getting as large as it gets, basically. So I can't make it any bigger. Can you see it now? Okay, so in order to demonstrate this, I created a Python version of Echo. Can you see my code? Okay, so how about that? Okay, yeah. So I created a version of the command line utility Echo using like Python called, and I'm calling it Gecko in order to just show you guys how you would create a Pyproject.toml Python package. So first thing you do is create a virtual environment, then activate, and then you can run gecko.py, and to prove that it will actually print out the way that echo prints out there. Okay, so then what happens if I want to try and package Gecko, right, as a Python package? Well, actually what you really need is the minimum viable Pyproject.toml. And this is it. This is the minimum viable Pyproject.toml, basically right here. All you need is the name and the version, and then you have to identify your build system. I'm using setup tools as the build backend, and I'm using specifically the build meta setup tools build backend for creating my minimum viable, smallest possible Python package. So then now, when I go to my Python virtual environment, I need to also make sure that two packages are installed. I need to make sure that build is installed. And then finally, I need to make sure that setup tools is greater than 62.00, because 62.00 is the most recent Python, is when they made the change. So then when I cd into smallest and I have my virtual environment, see, I can do Python m build. Now, when I run build, it's going to create the virtual environment, isolated environment, and then it is going to create it's going to take the code and then it's going to compress that code alongside the metadata, which is the identifiers for the code, and it's going to put them into that zip file and create that tar and the wheel file. So some interesting things about this, if you go through here to see what it's doing, basically it says, hey, by the way, you don't have a README. You really need to have a README. And then also so it complains a little bit, but it still does that where it creates the two files. Now, when I want to, I did this earlier to make this a little bit easier. So I can do just to prove that it works. No, I can do, inactivate. I can pip install the smallest dist wheel. Look, it's successfully installed, and now when I run Python, I can import my gecko function, and if I wanted to, I can run gecko.main, and it will print a list of random things, basically. So that works properly. But that's not kind of how you want to use it. What you want to be able to do is you want to be able to do gecko sd python and use it exactly the way that you would a command line things. So let's do that instead of doing the minimum viable one. Let's create the more complicated one. And if we're going to do a more complicated one, we do need to have a README. so notice here, I've moved the build system to the top. I think that's a little bit easier for people to read because the build system does impact the format of your metadata. I've added, yeah, I still have my name, I still have my version, but you know, it would be nice if people could find my project. So then I've added a description and keywords and classifiers, which are 3 things that are used on PyPI to find new packages and to understand what those packages do. I've included a README and a license because, you know, MIT license, we don't want people taking my project for like, you know, copywriting it and everything. README, because I might want to put this on GitHub. Finally, if I'm going to be an author of a package, I should probably put my name on it so people know I created it. And then if I created it, I also might not want to maintain it sometime in the future. So I would want to create maintainers that are separate from the authors. Like, and then also you want to let people know which version of Python you're going to be using. That hopefully the version of Python is okay. And then I want to make it so that I can run my script from the command line. So I create a entry point here called Gecko, and Gecko will run my Python script from the command line. Okay, so that is the full version of the Python course. Okay. And to prove that that does what I am telling you it does, I am going to run that same command, Python -m build in my full version. And now it creates the wheel and it creates the tar thing, and then it says, yeah, so in this one is includes the entry point. So now I can deactivate my environment. I can go back into my examples. I can source I can activate my virtual environment for my bin activate. Okay. I am here. Then I can pip install my newly created distribution. And then now if I do Gecko, SD, Python. Okay, pray to the demo gods. Pray to the demo gods. No, I don't want to. It prints out SD Python. Woo! Yay! Okay. Okay. We're good to go. So I would go into the endless morass that is the install requires and install requires extra, but I'm out of time. So thank you guys for having me, and thanks for listening to me. And I think that was 10 minutes, so I think I went way over time. So any questions? I mean, I could throw it in my GitHub. I mean, do people want it in my GitHub? It's literally just an example of a Pyproject.toml. pull. I can throw it in my so Pyproject.toml was, you know, outlined in PEP 621. So PEP 621 is the Python enhancement proposal put forth by Brett Cannon and the concept behind it was to allow people to have an easy to use configuration file for the metadata, for the core metadata associated with a Python project, and to force people to be explicit when it comes to being to stating whether a piece of metadata is going to be dynamic or static. Because prior to that, setup.config and setup.py allowed you to omit things and then have them be dynamically created, but the maintainers didn't know if people were omitting things because they didn't want to include them, or if they were omitting things because they were going to eventually be dynamically created. And that creates a lot of confusion when you're trying to do to standardize a build backend. So anyway, I can talk about this for hours. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, what's up? Yes. Chaos. Yes, there's a lot of chaos. Yes. Okay, so we are in a period of transition, is my opinion on that. What has happened is that we I liken it to like several years back, like 10 years ago, like there was multiple micro web frameworks coming out at the same time. They're Tornado and Flask and Fast API and all of these different micro web frameworks, Pyramid and all these different micro web frameworks. And then over time, two of them became super popular and have kind of established themselves as the more user friendly and useful ones, like Flask and Django, basically. And I think we're kind of in the same period of time right now when it comes to build backends. We have so many different build backends that exist. I could name a bunch, but then I'd also be missing out a bunch. And I have no idea which build backend is actually going to win in this like morass of multiple build backends. Right now, there's a lot of just basically, people competing for new features, new like user friendliness, documentation, all of the above, trying to convince you that their project is the one that's going to win. I have no idea which one's going to win in this. And honestly, setup tools has gotten a lot better. So it would be great if the default was setup tools again. So sometimes the old classic can impress. But yeah, so we'll see what happens in this group of experimentation, basically. Yeah, can't help you. You need to explore for yourself, because I can't tell you what you want. You tell me next year. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna turn off my microphone.
Oh, okay. Let me share my screen so you guys can see that. All right. Okay. The screen share showing up. Awesome. Cool. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Sorry I can't be there. I didn't want to get anyone else sick. And I do apologize if I have to clear my throat occasionally. Today, so my name is Jason Koo. Again, I am a developer advocate for Neo4j, which is a graph database company. And what I'll be showing today is a mock graph data generator app that I've built using Streamlit. So in the course of my work and course of just talking to people, when I mentioned graph databases, I have two main sort of problems that, or two hurdles that I encounter. The first thing is explaining what is a graph database. That's the number one problem. And once I've explained that, the next thing is getting someone to that sort of aha moment, right? That moment where they go from academically knowing what a graph database is to like, oh, this could be useful for my application in such and such a way. And this usually doesn't really happen until someone sees their data in a graph database and they're able to do some data discovery or just kind of see how their data is interconnected, right? Now, the problem with that, of course, is getting someone's real data into a graph database, right? If I'm lucky, I can find some data set that's similar to what somebody's working on and then kind of show them that way. Otherwise, it's just kind of, I have to show a completely different data set and try to get that idea across, which can be a little difficult. So there are some solutions for generating synthetic or fake mock data. You could take real data if someone were so inclined to give me, and then run it through Tonic or Gretel, and then basically convert that into anonymized data. Unfortunately, both these platforms don't do graph data, right? So it'll just take tabular data and create anonymized tabular data, but it'll all be kind of disjointed. Same sort of problem if I use like the faker or some sort of mock generation library, all right? So if I got a Python library that will generate fake data, it's really great for giving me fake objects, right? I can create fake objects with it, like user data. And then even additional things like fake clients, fake projects, fake tasks can all be done inside Python with these packages, easy enough. The problem is when I need to do interconnected data that would go into a graph database, right? So this is one of the advantages of a graph database is that these relationships are considered first-class citizens. So they become part of the data store, which is what allows graph databases to be used to query interesting data traversals like shortest distance, community detection, page ranking, finding missing links. Like this data needs to be in there to get the power of graph databases. So this is the problem I was trying to solve when I built the app that I'm going to show off. And what the first kind of naive approach to solving this would be to basically run a bunch of scripts, right? So to give it some flexibility, you can start with like a JSON configuration file that says how many people, how many clients, et cetera, and then run that through a script that will kind of generate each set some nodes and relationships in a sequential order, and then give you data that you could import into a graph database. Now, obviously, doing this for everyone I talk to can be very time consuming, right? Like this would have to be reworked every single time because that script is only good for a single domain space, right? So fortunately, there was a team at Neo4j that created this public app, which allows you to do graph data modeling. And it's very fast to just quickly create nodes, relationships, and kind of take somebody's domain space and turn it into a data model. Problem with this system is this doesn't turn into a graph database, right? It's purely for visualizing the data that would go into a graph database. Now, another team has built on top of this to take CSV data from various data sources and then map it to that same data model UI and then import that into a graph database. So the only thing, of course, missing here is the ability to create those CSV exports, right? That interconnected data, interconnection of mock data. So I need something that's kind of in between this and this that generates that fake data. And so what I've decided to do was using Streamlit because prototyping in Streamlit is super fast. If you haven't had a chance to try it out, totally recommend it. I did a few talks last year on Streamlit, and I mean, there's a lot of videos on YouTube now as well too. So Streamlit is the kind of the UI interface to this application. And what this app does is it will take the data model export from this Arrows app, because it can export JSON files. And what it does is then it will turn it into a native Python mapping object that contains all the nodes and relationships that was notated in that Arrows app. And then what this app basically does then is allows the user to assign Python functions to each of those nodes and their node properties to generate fake data, right? So if you have a name, you can choose a fake name generator, email, choose a fake email generator, and it'll go through each one of those nodes and the relationships that you want, generate the fake data, and then give you an export that can be uploaded to this data import tool. And the reason that I had to do this, and I couldn't just like modify one of these apps, is the code for both this app and this app is closed. So it's not public, and I mean, I can get copies to tweak with it, but I wouldn't be able to make it public, right? So the app I built is public. You can go in there, you can modify it, and you can use it, etc. So anyway, so that's the sandbox that I had to play in. Okay, so now that I've set you up, this is the app that was built. Oh, it's not showing up. Okay, let me change my screen sharing thing because I cannot see my code. Oh, I know. Okay, so, all right. So this is the Streamlit app. So it is a complicated Streamlit app, right? I originally thought this would be just a single page app and it would be fine, but it's turned into this giant monolith. Oh, yeah. Let's see. How's that? Okay. So you can see here, I'm using Streamlit tabs to kind of delineate the order of how basically the workflow that it has to go from designing to importing the mapping. Okay, so here I've got an iframe of that Arrows app, which doesn't look very good. Oh, there it goes. So basically, you do your data modeling here. You can download the JSON file, and then you go to the next tab, and you can either upload it or load an existing file. Once you upload a file, it becomes available for import. So this is, the JSON file that Arrows app exports. So just load that up, and it'll check the data, and it'll find like there's 3 nodes, 3 relationships in this example here. Then I go to the mapping tab, and here I can see the 3 nodes and the 3 relationships I have here. And this is where I can assign or kind of tweak the properties, right? So I've got first name, email, UID. Those are pretty straightforward. I have a function in here that tries to guess which generator you want for a given property based on the name, but it can be changed to, can't really see anything when it's blown up, but I have a bunch of tiny functions in here that will generate random data, and that can be found in this tab. So for example, if I want to do company names, you can see here that it is it's like the smallest chunk of Python code that's kind of standalone. And basically what's happening behind the scenes is the app will load this function based on an ID, right? So all these functions are ID'd and put into a folder. It just loads it up dynamically and then runs it. And then it will add the value to the nodes and relationships as it's going through. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I'll just skip ahead here. So once all the mapping is done, you can just click data import. It probably won't work because I didn't actually map anything here. Let me do that real quick. So UID for key is usually better. So here you can modify counts. You can modify how many you want. So say let's just do 10 people. And we'll do 10 jobs. So 1 job or 1 role for each person. And then we'll just have 1 company to keep it simple. And then here, this is the kind of the more interesting part, right? So relationships, right? So from one data point to another data point, how many of those relationships do we want to generate out to something? So how many people work as, when one person has how many roles, right? That's just going to be 1, so that's pretty straightforward. A company will employ so many type of jobs. And here we'll just put 10 so it all lines up. We don't have any extras. And then each person works for only 1 other person, just to keep it simple as well too. So once all these, sort of like mock configuration options are done, just jump to generate, click for data importer. It will go in and it will create all the fake records, which could be inspected here. So these are in the export tab. These are all the CSV files that were generated to match all the mock data mapping settings that we did. And then it packages it all into a zip file, which then can be uploaded into the data importer here, which I have an iframe to as well. Ooh, but it looks like it doesn't want to load. Okay, so what I'll do is do it from, so this is the data importer from Neo4j's interface. So model data, and so this is a zip file that I did prior to this, just to test. Nope, did not work. Okay, let me pull an older file then. Exports, zips. Oh, okay. Well, that's too bad. Okay, there it goes. I was like, this worked like 20 minutes ago. All right, so as you can see here, it imported all those CSV files, and if I go through this, at least every time I've done it before, it'll match up with all the exported data that was from here. Right, future-proof needs-based. Let's see if that shows up here. Oh, maybe I can't see that here. Anyways, so all those CSV files come in. You can see here this data model matched. Well, it matched the original one that I imported, and then all I have to do is click Run Import, and you'll see. So this is the state of the database now, which is got no nodes, no relationships. And once this is done, I can, let's see if it goes in here real quick. We can see here in the, this is one visual interface option that's available. So we can see here that it's added these people, they work in this particular role. I got a little circular reference here, but they all work for this one company. There should be 10 roles, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it should be 10 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this is, I think, an interesting example of what you can do with Streamlit. Like you can prototype a very complex app in very little time. I think this took me maybe about 2 weeks, and most of the time was spent, kind of fudgeting with, adding these instructions, comments, making it look pretty. I pretty much spent most of my time, but to get it all put together was incredibly quick. Okay, so that's something you can do with Streamlit, is create very niche prototype tool use cases. Yes, yeah, sorry. Yes, that was my cue for taking questions. Yes. So no, I didn't try using those tools, but yeah. So I would love to. Let's see if I can get here. I would love to have built on top of this tool or this tool. You know, any graph tool would have been more ideal for configuring the setup, right? Because you know we go from this sort of very visual graph model, and then to make the mappings work, I have to go into this really sort of ugly columnar system, right? Which is once you have like you know like a dozen nodes and maybe like 24 relationships, this is just a horrific way to kind of go through this. It would be much nicer, right, if I could use like one of the tools that you had mentioned or build on top of one of these tools and have the mock data assignments right here. And that's what I plan on doing in kind of my next iteration. So I'm looking at either a Chrome extension or, you know, see if I can beg, borrow, and steal the original code for this and build on top of that. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Yes, I'm hoping all this medicine I took will A, make me feel better and put me to sleep early tonight.
Just FYI, I put my presentation on my GitHub. So if you go to tinyurl /sd python pyproject, or I misspelled pyproject, pyproject. Yeah, no worries.
Oh, and I'll put a link to my code into the Slack channel that we have, or I guess I'll put it in the chat as well. Okay, Slack is that? Okay, huh. All right, cool.
Because we were going to get a lot of feedback if I don't.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right.
Would y'all mind if we turn the lights
I was
on?
gonna ask about that.
Whoever
Turned the light off, just turn it back on. It was great for the remote presenters, but now we have an in-person presenter, and our last speaker is Jay, who's right here. So Jay Miller is going to talk to us about adding plugins to your code with Pluggy.
Yeah.
All right.
So
hopefully this works.
I want to start this with a question, really simple question. Someone tell me why they started using Python.
Problems.
Big strong problems? Okay.
Company decided to use it.
Was that?
Company decided to use it.
The company decided to use it? That's a good reason. One in the back?
One of the frameworks that we have in the company build
Get away from Perl sounds like a good reason.
Well, the thing is that we were already reaching the max capacity using Perl for multi-threading and processing.
Okay. So I did hear, well, actually none of y'all answered.
It's a desirable skill, Python.
I mean, that's a good one too. Get paid. I like that.
Learned at school.
Learned it at school. There's one more in the back.
Rapidly prototyping for startups.
Okay, I'm glad none of you got into Python the same reason I did.
Also introduced.
I wanted to build cool stuff. Okay, I'm gonna be open and honest, and this is like the #1 example for me getting to build cool stuff. As I mentioned before, I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. We're not talking about anything Microsoft related. This is something that I've been working on personally. This is actually the project that I built to get a tech job that I've been maintaining for 5 years now. So when I say there is a lot of mistakes, there's a lot of sweat, and there are a lot of bad decisions that are baked into the foundation of this code, I really mean it. So that being said, I'm going to show you how I make my website not look like, oh no, it does not look like this, because I mean, it's okay if it's 1992. Yeah, that's a lot. Instead, I'm going to work to make it look a little bit, I don't know why I'm looking at the screen when I can just look down here and you can see it. Instead, I'm going to make it look like this. A little bit cleaner. Things that are like nicely tucked away. I'm zoomed in and resolutions are off, so stuff is getting still cut off, but that's okay. A lot nicer than the first one. Yes, we can agree? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, first of all, I build this using a Python package that I created called Render Engine. What it does is it takes static pages. It is a static site generator. It takes not even HTML. It takes Markdown pages and more and turns it into HTML. It's called Render Engine. I'm going to tell you why you don't want to use it, because everything I'm going to show you is in the alpha. So everything that I show you, you don't get to use probably for another couple of weeks. But when I talked about all of these ideas, I have to talk about this build because what you start to learn is it's complex. Render Engine uses 4 class objects, 3 class objects. It used to have a 4th one. I got rid of that. One of them is a page. A page is simple. It's a page. HTML. There's that. The second one is a collection. I wonder what a collection is. It's a collection of pages. And then one is a site. And a site contains a group of collections and or pages. So, doing all of that is fun because a single page can be represented with an HTML file, or it can be represented in a Markdown file. And, you know, that's great. But what happens when instead of Markdown, I want to use one of the podcasts that I have? And whenever I release a new podcast episode, I want my site to go, I should probably add that to the site so that Jay doesn't have to manually do it again. So then I start digging into my source code and I go, well, how do I support Markdown and HTML and podcasts and other blog posts and YouTube channels? All that's a lot. And it slows down development time. And in fact, I might be the only one that's wild enough to try that. So why should I develop all of that stuff for my static site generator other than the fact that it's my static site generator and I'm not expecting many people to use it anyway? The answer is you don't. And all of this can be applied into real world practices. If you have a wild and crazy idea that you want to try and it adds 200 lines of code to your gigantic mono repo at work, what are the odds that you think that's going to get approved? It's probably not. They're going to be like, no one's going to use this. You're going to waste a lot of engineering time. And instead, the solution is, why don't you just make it a plugin? 2 years ago, I was telling my friend that exact story, and they said you should use Pluggy, and I said, I'll just build my own. A year later, I had not built my own, and he said you should use Pluggy. And I said, I'll build this thing with abstract base classes instead. And I did, and that's there, and you can use them, and they're called custom parsers, and they work. But they didn't do all the things that I wanted to do. Like, they didn't make my website go from not styled to styled magically. And I'm going to show you how I do that in just a second. So, to wrap this story up, last week I was talking with someone who wanted to use Render Engine for their site, and they said, well, I need it to do this thing. And I said, well, I don't want it to do this thing because it's your site, it's not my site, and I don't want to support the things that you build. And then that person came back and said, why don't you use Pluggy? And I said, fine. I will take the months and years to learn Pluggy, and 6 hours later I was done. So I guess if this talk has any lesson, it is listen to your friends when they have good advice. So, how do you use Pluggy to modify a project? We're going to walk through it, we're going to look. Can y'all see this? I can make it bigger. We can make it bigger if we need to. A little bit bigger? Okay, we're going to presentation mode, isolate it. That better? Okay, cool. So, Pluggy starts with none of this, actually, because this is the plugins folder. Let's go to hook spec. There we go. By importing Pluggy. As with most things with Python, it all starts with an import, which also starts with a pip install Pluggy. Then, inside of your code, you need to have a project name. The reason you want that project name is so that when you have other plugins, they can say, my project name is this. So that's how it identifies what plugins exist in your system environment. There is a harder way to do this. It is defined in the Python packaging index, not in the Python packaging index, PyPA, the Python Packaging Authority. It's about 600 words and my eyes glazed over after the first paragraph. So don't do that. Use Pluggy. I'm telling you now, save yourself years. And then you have to basically define two things: your hook specification and your hook implementation. So the hook implementation is the rules that your, actually no, sorry, I'm going to start over with that. Your hook specification are the areas in which you will allow code to insert itself into your package. So these are often called entry points. So in ours, we have this class called site specs, and inside of that we have several hook specs, which are hook specifications. We have one that happens before you build the site, one that happens after you build the site, before the page, before the collection, after the collection, the pages inside of the collection. You have a bunch of them. So there are these 7 or 8 entry points that I can have people create code that that my application looks for automatically and says, hey, I see that, I'm going to add it. Now, I'm going to show you how I do it because I don't like things automatically being added to my code. That sounds dangerous. So instead, I enforce it to be done manually. So now that we've defined that specification, we then have to also define implementation. And I mean, again, the devil's in the details, so let's look at the implementation details. We're going to look at the ones that are actually built into my program. And this is the thing that I like about this, is that if you want to learn how to do it, just build it. And if you have plugins that everyone can use, just build it into your package. It's fine. It doesn't change how the package works. It just changes where it's being loaded from. So I have 2 built-in plugins. One is called Sitemap. Sitemap runs post-build site. So after the site is built, there's an entry point. And I want you to generate an XML file that has the sitemap so that Google can go and it finds it and does all that stuff. And basically all it's saying is, the site is built, I'm going to look at all of the files in the output folder, and I'm going to generate a sitemap for that file. Do you want to do that normally? Yes. Do you want to have that be like the first thing you're worried about? No. Do you want your sitemap to maybe be built differently? Maybe you want it paged, for every 50,000 items, which I think is the requirement now. Sure, but I don't have to maintain that. If you want that, you can build it. You just provide the exact same thing. At hook implementation, you reference you have your project name. So your package would be called render engine _ whatever your package name is called. And then it just loads. In fact, and actually I wanted to show you, go to site really quick. If we go into site, we can actually see where these entry points are. So I believe, there is one right there. Well, first we say, Pluggy, initialize your plugin manager. So Pluggy.plugin manager and the project name. So yeah, my project name. Then we're going to say add all of the hook specs. So add all of those different details to where you want that code to run. And then, as we start going through, I have a method here called post-build-page. I wonder what it does. First, it generates a page object. Then it does post-build-page, and then it returns that same page object. That page object would then be modified by whatever gets called there. And that means that anytime I call that method, here's another one for pre-build collection. Here's 2 right here. I'm basically just wrapping my code with all of these different entry points. And this is great, all as is. But I said how other packages can modify my existing code, right? So I have a few. And here's actually one that you've already seen and you don't even know it. Called Render Engine Tailwind. Does anyone here know what Tailwind CSS is? Yes? Okay, like it, hate it. I know there's a war on Twitter happening right now about it. I personally use it. I don't have an opinion. So, in Render Engine Tailwind, this is everything that's there. Pyproject.toml, we just had a talk about that. I used them. That was why I had questions personally. I'm also using setup tools. Some tests, some test files because someone once told me that you should write tests, and I agree with them for the most part. And then just an empty initialization file and some plugins. If we go to those plugins, what we see is I imported Render Engine, I imported my hook specs, and I imported the hook implementation. So for there, I can say, hey, here's a bunch of details that I want ran, and here's a Tailwind CSS class with that hook implementation. And the method name is post-build-site. So the difference between doing this versus something like an abstract base class is I don't have to define all of the entry points. I only have to define the ones that I'm going to use. So once that's done, we now have this. This is actually on PyPI. You can go pip install render engine or render-engine-tailwind CSS. But we can go to my website, which is that one. And don't look at that. That's just metadata. We look here, and this is why my site was ugly, because I had all these plugins that I told it to add, and I haven't commented out. So if we want to look here, we can see I am importing the Tailwind CSS plugin and the YouTube embed plugin. Both of these are just plugins that I worked on the last couple of days, because I was like, I'm having to manually load Tailwind CSS every time. It would be cool if Render Engine just did it for me. So then I made the plugin and it worked. And then I wanted to be able to add a YouTube link in my markdown and just have Render Engine automatically find them using regular expressions and then do a YouTube iframe. So I don't have to remember iframe, URL source, youtube.com, yada, yada, yada. I just have to copy and paste the link from my browser, and then it finds it and embeds it in my pages. So before I show you this working, I'm going to go into content. I'm going to go into my microblog content that I had for earlier today. Well, it would help if I was actually in the content folder. You know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to go content microblog. What's today's date? The 26th. I write a lot, so sorry. The 26th. So this, let me clean this up. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. Close that. Close that. So this is what the text looks like inside of my GitHub repo. I use front matter at the top to define any metadata that I want to add. So I say, all you need is the date. This is for a microblog. If you're not familiar with the microblog is, think of it as a Twitter post or a Mastodon post or whatever. But it lives on my site. It has its own RSS feed. If people want to know what I'm up to, you subscribe to that. You don't go to someone else's site and read my content. So I say, hey, speaking tonight at San Diego Python, a link to the Meetup about adding plugin support to Render Engine coming in the next major update, which again, probably a week or two away. I'll update with the link to this stream as a live. Oh, I should probably do that. Okay. What was the link to the stream? There it is. Good job. Thank you, David. So we're just going to add that. And I noticed that it's a short link. It's not the full link. That's okay. I took that into account already. It should find it. So let's run. We're going to run. I'm in my virtual environment already. I'm going to type in the magic incantation, which is render engine serve. That would serve it as it already exists. I need to build first. -- build. What is my module? It is routes. What is my site? It is my site. I say build. We cross our fingers because this is a demo. Okay, it's doing some stuff. It's adding, it's adding, it's adding, it's adding, it's done. Okay, and it's now serving up my site at localhost 8000. Now, because I don't trust any of this, I'm going to actually get rid of my browser. I'm going to reopen it. And I'm going to go to localhost 8000. Well, it's still ugly, but, oh, yeah, it didn't fix that YouTube link either down here. I would zoom in, but that would just hurt. Okay, so I need to fix that. All right, how do we fix that?
You're gonna tempt the gods here.
Yeah, well, luckily this is a planned error. So we're going to go back into that site. Oh yeah, I didn't uncomment out all of these plugins. So we're going to uncomment the plugins one by one because I can then say what they do. Clean output, it does just that. It deletes my output folder before creating a new one. Normally you don't want to do that for a static site, but it's, you know, if you have a site that changes paths, you want it to have a link to the existing path. But sometimes you're testing stuff and you want to just destroy everything and build fresh. Sitemap, we already talked about sitemap. It does sitemap things. Tailwind CSS, that's going to add some style. If you don't have Tailwind CSS installed, it's going to install it for you and then it's going to add some style. YouTube embed, that's probably what we need. And then we're going to save that. We're going to stop this. We're going to run it again. And what we should see is... Oh, look at that, replacing YouTube IDs, doing some stuff, doing some Tailwind stuff, and now it's done. We go back here, we hit refresh, because it hates me. We're gonna quit Safari, we're gonna reload Safari. Just to be safe, we're gonna go into a private browser, we're gonna go to localhost 8000, and now it is once again styled, localhost 8000, once again styled, and magically, it found this YouTube embed and embedded it into my site. None of this code was important enough for me to build inside of my Python package. But it makes for really cool demos. So I would suggest if you want to build something cool like I did 5 years ago, you listen to your friend the first time 3 years ago, and you only build the things that are necessary for your project to actually run. And then for everything else, there's Pluggy. Any questions? There's a question in the back.
Yeah, quick question. Do you know if there is a loading?
Dynamic module reloading.
Like a debug mode. You have your app running. Is Flash the main web server?
No, this is all static. This is using http.server, which is in standard library. Yeah, I figured that out last night. I'm not gonna lie. This demo looked a lot different yesterday. I know of a module, and this is actually one of the things that we are planning on adding to this is a reload functionality, and it's just going to use File Watcher. So like, hey, check this directory while it's running. If the directory changes, then reload the site. But at the moment, I think that's how most people are doing it. I don't know of any other way to do it.
One way we do similar things.
Mm-hmm.
Tracking the file, putting the code, and getting some.
Yeah, it sounds like you got it figured out.
Because it would be nice to, focus only your development, building your plugins.
Yeah.
With engines.
So there is a way for, so Pluggy does do automatic like plugin registration. So if you have it pointing to your local file path, if you do like, as you're in like local development mode, you do pip install -e, whatever your path is. As you're making changes, technically you could reload based off of those file paths. And like I said, using File Watcher would be the way to do that. And I don't even remember the name of that actual package. So if you remind me in like Discord, I'll look it up. But that's how I would do it. But like I said, I just have a problem with opening up, because like, so Pluggy is built off of PyTest's extension ecosystem. Basically, they took what PyTest was doing and said, let's freeze this in place and make a separate package out of it. PyTest does things in magical ways, and I don't like it. I would kind of rather know what it's doing, or at least that I want it to do it in that moment. So that's why I developed it the way that I did, to where you actually have to manually call which plugins and register them. There is a way to actually have import lib dynamically look at all of your packages, look for that project name, and then just throw everything in there. But again, when you don't want them, then you got to write custom code for that, and nobody wants to do that.
And the only question. Package itself.
That's coming soon. There's a lot of discussion around, do we use YAML? No. Do we use just a Python dictionary? Probably. JSON? Maybe. Not sure yet. But yeah, config file is definitely on the way. Again, this is my website. It's normally not at localhost. It's at kjaymiller.com. All the RSS feeds and stuff work in there. And I do video updates of this, or I've just started doing video updates of this. So yeah, config files are coming, and I just don't know how to do it. And I've been preoccupied building all the fun stuff instead of building the stuff that actually would make the product better. Yeah. What's the difference between... Okay, so I actually have two versions of ways to import or modify Render Engine's code. One of them is using Pluggy. The other one is using a... basically like an abstract base class. I don't use abstract base classes because I was like, that will force you into using their stuff. Kind of got in the way of stuff, but essentially that's what it is. I'm using composition to load it. The challenge was that with Pluggy there are a few extra bits. They're not many. Like I said, you just have to define what the project name is. Whereas with an abstract base class, you kind of have to do some custom support for that abstract or for that base class inside of your code. So my page parsers, I have an attribute called parser that exists in pages that basically say, what is this data? How do I turn it into HTML? I have one for Markdown, one for JSON, one for RSS. Well, two for RSS technically because podcast feeds are special. And then I have, to support that in a collection, I have, what is it? Oh yeah, I have parser, and then I have page parser. And page parser is the attribute that lives in the collection because there's a potential for a collection parser. And you already see how difficult this is getting, just me trying to remember it and say it off the top of my head. Whereas with Pluggy, I just have to say, have this object. This object will have some function called this, or it won't. And if it doesn't, then don't do anything. And then just load it if it has it, and you've registered it. So if you don't want to think about all of the extra development details, Pluggy is definitely better than saying, I have this class, and I also have to think about how this class is always going to interact with my content, and how I need to be prepared for that class to interact with my content, which means your contributing files, your contributing.md file, is going to be ridiculous, because you have to think about how every single other person may want to interact with your program. Whereas with this, I'm saying there are only these ways to interact with it. No other ways. Have fun.
Wouldn't you want the content to be split up between different pages? So it's not like one.
Oh, they're there.
Thing,
yeah,
but,
they're there. If I click on blog, and blog decides to load, yeah, I have blog posts for days. So many blog posts. I can keep going. I'm not going to though. Yeah, so I do have them in other pages as well. This is just my home page. I have it pulling in. I actually figured that out and almost did not give this presentation because I had to figure it out. I had to actually rewrite a bunch of code, which is why it's not available today, because I don't have tests for that yet. That took the actual pages, found and then generated them, and then took that content and then passed that content into another page object. And it's supposed to support that a little bit easier, but it doesn't, and I need to figure out why not. Because there's supposed to be Jinja. It's using Jinja as the templating behind the scenes, and Jinja supports custom filters, and I have some stuff in there like URL force support that allows you to just reference a page object inside of another page object, and regardless of its URL, it'll go and find that and embed it into your site. So if you change your URL, you don't have to go back and change all the entry points for it. But I also want to do that for the content as well. But the first one isn't working, so the second one hasn't been started yet. Also, if you want to work with me while I work on this blog post right here is really important. It gives me money. I'm just saying. But yeah, any other questions? All right, I'll hand it back off to Dave.
Okay. That's pretty much it for the meetup. Thank you for coming. I do want to thank our sponsors and our hosts. So I specifically Ansir for having us here. That was super awesome, especially on short notice. Like literally, I had about a week notice. I want to thank our speakers. I want to thank Microsoft for the snacks in the back, and I want to thank JFrog for the awesome giveaway. That pretty much wraps it up. We'll probably be out of here in like 10-ish minutes. If you are the kind of person who would like to go to O'Brien's after, I think some of us will probably head over there. Probably there's a little more cleanup, so I might not be there for like 20 minutes, but you get the picture. But thank you for coming. When I know where we'll be next month, I will let you know. And if you would like to give a talk, pysd.io/talk, you can sign up to give a talk.
There's a link on the meetup. So
There is a link on the
same way you figured out how to get here, that's where you figure out how to give a talk.
Yeah.
And please take the food. I don't like. I've got a.
I'm still hungry.
They don't
so.
know what Thai food is. Like it's fine.
What was your website again?
kjaymiller.com. Yeah. I'm also on Twitter and LinkedIn under the same name. I'm not on Mastodon yet. I'm not cool enough.
Apparently, the audio is only coming in one of the channels.
Dude, it's
the
always
left
broken.
channel. I know.
I wanna hear.
I know.
Every time I give a presentation, he's like, "Yeah, great talk."
No, the audio is good in the left, but not in the right.
Oh, you can just download it, convert it to mono, and re-upload it then.
I could, but I won't.
But you're not going to. Yeah. That's fine.
Thanks for talking.
Absolutely. I tend to usually be the like, hey, do we have enough? Do we have 3 talks? No? Okay, what have I worked on this week? Sure, let's do that. Next month we'll be talking about fire data that I pulled from NASA. That's actually true.
Cool.